Thank you all, everyone. Welcome to this panel session between Social Enterprise Mark, the CSR-Accreditation and WhatImpact. And so if I just introduce, and I'm Vidya also from WhatImpact. So if I just talk through the agenda for today, we're going to start with some introductions by Lucy and Richard and Tia. Thank you very much for sending through questions ahead of this panel session. So if we just start with Lucy, if you could kindly introduce yourself.
Yes, so my name's Lucy Findlay and I'm the founding managing director of the Social Enterprise Mark. So we're essentially an accreditation for social enterprises, and social enterprises are businesses that are there for primarily social and environmental purpose, i.e. they're there to make a difference to society and the environment, and they are hopefully making a profit, although that's quite hard at this time, but they reinvest that profit primarily back into their social mission or into other social or environmental impact measures. So they differ from CSR in the way in which the company is usually set up with that as their main function. So that's us. We're an accreditation body, so we have a number of accreditations that range from those businesses at the beginning of the journey who want to start up a social enterprise and perhaps haven't earned 50% of their income. They might have, been getting grants and that kind of thing, through to our social enterprise mark for those that have been trading for a number of years. And then we also have our social enterprise gold mark, which is our mark of excellence for social enterprises, and we're currently developing an in-between level of accreditation as well for those that have best practice aspects to what they do. So that's essentially us. And I suspect I'll be going on to talk a bit about what we do through the questions shortly. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Richard, if you could kindly introduce yourself as well, please.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Richard Collins and I am the founder and managing director of CSR-Accreditation. We are the only UK body for social responsibility accreditation, although we do provide accreditations throughout the world. And similar to the social enterprise mark, we have 3 levels of gold, silver and bronze. The accreditation is actually a very effective way to benchmark what you are already doing as an organisation. Our experience is that all organisations deliver social responsibility already. They just don't necessarily have a name for it or a facility in which they can put it together and communicate it. We think it's important to use the accreditation to start your CSR journey, to benchmark what you're doing, to measure it, and then to report the impact. Importantly, we talk a lot about positive storytelling. We want to see the positive story doing. So the CSR accreditation is a great starting point. We also support that with CSR training, with workshops and webinars, social impact report writing, and consultation and mentoring. And I think, just to conclude my introduction, COVID has been a year that has really highlighted the importance of social responsibility, and we've defined a new standard. So our standard for social responsibility is as follows. I have to read the statement because I haven't committed it to memory yet, but we believe that social responsibility allows you to enrich the quality of lives for all by investing in social value as an essential part of an organisation's culture. This provides purpose and impact and will ensure a sustainable and profitable business. It will also help to build a better world for future generations by improving the environment and ensuring a cohesive community to live and work in. And finally, we've included the inclusive C in social responsibility. So we talk about social responsibility, we talk about CSR, but the C now stands for community, for charity, for consumer, for citizen, for company, for collective, for caring, and so on. So it's the inclusive C, the new standard.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
Really nice. And Tia, over to you.
Yes, hello, my name is Tia Sammalahti and I'm the founder and CEO of WhatImpact.com. We are a newly launched platform as now a parent platform for previous WhatCharity.com. And we are a two-sided marketplace to match grant makers and companies investing in CSR activities. We connect them with profiles to charities and social enterprises who then can apply for certain resources being money, but also skills, service and product packages. And also we enable social enterprises and certain charities who trade to also match with companies on our platform. So we operate as like a market side matchmaking mechanism. We have adapted this kind of AI topic modeling solution to help matches. As we know, there are quite a lot of gaps in the market when these kind of social value organizations are trying to match with commercial operators, and our AI solution helps recognize shared values and goals, and therefore recommending matches that you might not have thought of. We are also very much for impact reporting. So our platform contains quite holistic social impact reporting template system. And we also then generate certain video type of materials for every party who collaborates, for them to then distribute to social media or in newsletters and such, to build their reputation through the partnerships. So we are this kind of facilitator for the for these things that then Lucy and Richard present with their organizations as accreditation. And we help, of course, companies and charities and social enterprises to collaborate in more efficient way. We don't want to waste time and money into finding each other and doing unnecessary work when trying to find partners to collaborate. We wish the partnerships to be, easy to handle and also easy to find suitable partners. Happy to be in this conversation and also learn more from Lucy and Richard.
Great. So two of our organizations here, you have accreditations, so the importance of having recognition of the work that you're doing. Tia, with WhatImpact, the platform, the profiles are transparent. So I guess my first question is, why is it so important for organizations to show what work they're doing in the community? Richard, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. So it's about showing leadership and demonstrating what good looks like. And we've often talked about the fact that it's actually charities and community projects that can offer an opportunity for businesses to engage in a positive manner. And the reason this is important is because it provides purpose and value. And that is for all stakeholders, so especially for staff. So we're very keen to kind of really highlight the importance of investing the emotional investment in staff by allowing them to actively participate in social responsibility. And that includes things like volunteering, fundraising, pro bono work, and gifts in kind, and so on and so forth. And what this does is and we might touch on this later, but it has there's a balance between that return on social investment. So in other words, the financial value to a business, the social responsibility, but that return on the social return on investment, which is the social value to the community and the world at large. And I think if you get the balance right, and you engage your workforce by enriching the quality of their lives, by allowing them to deliver social responsibility, you can create more productivity for your business, but you also then have that value added purpose that those individuals can go home in the evenings feeling that they've not only done a good job, but they've actually done something above and beyond that. That makes them feel that they're contributing to a better world.
Thank you. And Lucy, the role of the social enterprise mark is to help social enterprise genuinely define what it means to be a social enterprise. Can you talk through that and the importance of the mark?
Yeah, I think particularly at this time, Vidya, of you know, the crisis that we've come through, we've seen that there needs to be a different way to do business, and things like social enterprise and CSR are, you know, important outcomes to help us build back better. So I would definitely put us in the context of how we as businesses, particularly obviously where you are a social enterprise running in a local community, you are part of that community, and you are responding to the needs of that community, and you're not driven by shareholder value per se. You're driven by your social and environmental mission, and I think that's a really important message at this point in time. I've just been reading, interestingly, that the government has just put together a task force or a council for businesses to build back better. And if you look at the response, the types of businesses that are there, it's kind of the usual suspects, I would say, you know, the really big corporates. And that's not to sort of say that the big corporates don't have a role, but actually social enterprises in their local communities have a very important role in understanding and responding to the needs of that local community. So it's a particularly important thing, I think, at the moment, to see that there is a different way of doing business, and accreditation helps to identify those businesses that are making a difference, and helps those businesses to be able to articulate how and why they're making that difference. Because, you know, with the best will in the world, they're often running around doing all sorts of things. They may be making lots of difference, but they're not able to articulate that. So that's where we as an accreditation body can help that organisation by showing that they really are making a difference and proving it.
Good. And Tia, why did you feel it was so important that WhatImpact members had public profiles?
Well, it's actually exactly like Lucy said, that, you know, there are lots of organizations who do fantastic work, and people just don't know about it. And the times for that kind of a businesses is over. Whether they are, you know, like in Richard's end, you know, the companies who are not like social enterprises themselves, but want to contribute something to society, and, you know, any kind of organization who is merely operating for profit and doesn't want to contribute to the society, that kind of time is totally over. And, you know, therefore, you know, all the companies, it's now in SMEs, big corporates, everybody is now looking to partner with other organizations who actually contribute something else than just profit. And, you know, it's important that this finding work and matching is efficient, because otherwise people have to hire like staff to find the partners, you know, so technology can help. These kind of marketplaces, platform concepts have changed many other industries. Like LinkedIn has revolutionized the whole HR kind of recruitment industry. And, you know, we want to see the same change happening in the CSR aspect and generating social value, that you wouldn't spend resources in finding partners, but you actually put it in the good use to the society, whether it's in the form of like donations, giving time, whatever, or then purchasing from these kind of organizations. Like many social enterprises are now very much wanted partners for companies, because companies spend so much money in their supply chain. They are purchasing so many stuff. Why would they just buy from a company who merely wants profit? Why wouldn't they buy the same product, more maybe environmentally friendly done, with the, you know, with the teams that actually contribute to society? Why wouldn't they buy from social enterprise? And we see that now happening, and we want to enhance this matchmaking and save money and time from these partnerships.
Great, thank you. Thank you for helping set the scene on, you know, the importance of the external visibility. So let's move on to the questions. I know we've got some guests online as well. If you have any questions in addition to the ones that we pose, please feel free to put them in the Q&A section of Zoom. So let's move on to the first question. Is company social responsibility for large organizations only? How should SMEs think about it? And what's the best way to persuade corporations, more in particular smaller businesses, the importance of corporate social responsibility? Richard, I think that one's you.
So absolutely, social responsibility is for everybody, from the individual through to multinationals. And we've found in our experience that actually the smaller the organisation, the more capacity they have to deliver impactful and meaning social responsibility. Because small businesses, SME businesses, tend to be more flexible and more dynamic, and their senior marketing team or their senior management team tend to be more kind of involved with the decision making. Corporates will tend to have departments, they tend to be structured in a way where everything's a bit distanced, and it's a little harder for them to kind of deliver the level of impactful and meaningful social responsibility that smaller organisations can do. And the thing is, I think Tia sort of mentioned it earlier, supply chain is key. And I think the thing is that, you know, you may be a responsible organisation, but your reputation might be let down by somebody in your supply chain that is inadvertently polluting a river or suddenly being caught through tax evasion or whatever it might be. And we live in a social media era now where stories get out, people talk, the public are taking an active interest in the organisations that they deal with and work with. And they want to see ethical and responsible behaviour from those organisations. So I think it's more important than ever that businesses show that they're behaving responsibly. And this has to do with building reputation and building customer and consumer reputation, but it has also to do with, you know, doing the right thing, you know, and being part of a community. So, you know, not so long ago, businesses see themselves as being sat outside of communities. You go to work in the morning and you kind of, you know, not part of that community anymore. Whereas in fact, you know, businesses are part of the community and they need to work with the community to engage with it. And I think with regards to social enterprise groups as well, it's absolutely key that these organisations are being seen more as part of supply chain to provide that kind of responsible kind of products and services, especially as we move into 2021 and there's more concern around care, mental health and well-being, about sustainability in the environment, and so on and so forth. So, you know, and I think the other thing is that, as I've mentioned earlier, everyone's doing this. All organisations, you know, whether you're a sole trader or a big multinational, you are delivering on social responsibility. So it's a question of pulling that together and showing others what you're doing to demonstrate leadership and to build that loyalty. And finally, we're looking at the next generation of the workforce. They're not just the millennials, but the Generation Z coming behind that, who have a different idea about the sort of companies they want to work with. So if you want to retain talent and attract new talent, you've really got to be looking at the values of this new and incoming generation in terms of their ideas around value and purpose.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have anything to add to Richard's response? If not, I've got a good segue question. So one of the questions that also came in was, how do social enterprises avoid losing credibility when partnering with a company or corporation that has had bad press associated with it?
Yeah, I guess that's aimed at me. Well, we've had a lot of thinking about this as an accreditation organisation. You know, obviously we stand and fall by the reputation of those that we accredit. And we have had incidences, it's usually the other way round actually, where corporates might have got their fingers burnt. Just recently there's been a case, unfortunately, of an organisation, a long-standing organisation called Clarity, where it got taken over. It was run by blind people, and it's primarily providing employment for blind people, and another organisation has taken it over and they haven't paid furlough to the staff. So of course that has a reputational damage for the social for the corporate, and I think it works both ways really, because what the social enterprise, well, what the the social enterprise needs to do if it has some sort of relationship with that organisation is to be really clear what it's about and what it's for, and have a good robust understanding of what that relationship is, and then engage in the sort of activity that you need to do to explain what your relationship is more widely, and to use your accreditation, for example. If you've got the social enterprise mark, that helps to show where you are, you know, where you've been affected. And in the case of the social enterprise that was behaving badly, it was no longer a social enterprise. So we were able to say that that accreditation has actually been taken away from that organisation. So I think in both cases, accreditation helps with either party, because it helps to verify what that organisation does and whether it whether it is doing what it actually stands for, when it comes down to reputational damage. So so we would say that the social enterprise mark helps the organisation's due diligence for that partner. So if you look for the CSR mark or the social enterprise mark, you know that they've been through a thorough process.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's also, when you show a mark, it's asking to be challenged. So, we encourage businesses, if someone displays a CSRA mark, we encourage people to say, well, why have you got that mark, and what can you do, to show that you earned that mark? Because, to get a CSRA accreditation, you have to show evidence that you delivered what you said you've done in your application. And therefore, you should be able to show that you have done these things. The difficulty with accreditation marks, I'm sure Lucy will agree, is that there has been a tradition of, in the past, of whitewashing and box ticking exercises. Which is kind of just to get over that hurdle. Whereas we've moved beyond that now. It is about delivering evidenced impact to show that you're doing what you'll say you're doing. And the mark is basically an invitation to challenge that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So that takes us nicely on to the next question. Can you share some examples of great social value partnerships between social enterprises and other types of companies, where the social enterprise has benefited financially, not just in kind?
So shall I take a lead on that one, Vidya? So I'll give an example, because I think a lot of people think very narrowly about what social enterprise can actually provide, and social enterprises can provide a whole host of different services. So we've got examples of where, for instance, big providers like PwC and others have looked to social enterprises to provide things like their catering for events. But you can be part of the supply chain in other ways as well. So for instance, there's a really good social enterprise called Even Break, that is actually helping with that situation with the blind, the social enterprise that took, that has just hit difficulties with furlough, whereby they're helping companies to place disabled people into jobs. So they're a job agency run by disabled people to place disabled people into mainstream workforce opportunities. So it's about being really creative in thinking about your supply chain, and the ways in which you can operate, and to be able to deliver on things like contracts as well. So for instance, if a big organization is looking to contract with, for instance, the public sector as a prime contractor, there are ways in which you might be able to deliver better social value by subcontracting with a social enterprise. So that's quite, quite a good model, which, as long as that social enterprise doesn't end up getting the really difficult cases, which can sometimes be the difficult parts of the contract, it can be quite a good relationship.
And maybe I would like to add a little reminder of the Social Value Act, which has been now enhanced like last year by the government. It's been already on for years, which means that when government is setting out tenders, they should be evaluating the social impact of the service providers or product providers, and you know, they can then actually accept a little bit higher bid than just take the cheapest one if somebody demonstrates exceptional social value delivery in that area where the actual tender job is being done. And we've been doing quite a lot of research on this matter, and contacting lots of companies and also speaking with the people in the government who work with the tenders. And to be honest, not everybody is very much aware of this. And I guess companies who are applying for tenders, they are just maybe writing down something what they do for social value, and there hasn't been always very much need for proof. But now last year it's been very much enhanced that now every government body has to take this into consideration, not just the construction industry, which actually maybe applied this the best previously, what we have learned, but every single government kind of sector has to now pay attention to the impact of an organizations who are actually applying for tenders. And therefore, you know, it's even more crucial now for companies to, you know, kind of take those social value points from every aspect, which means, like Lucy was saying, that, you know, some company might use a lot of subcontractors who are social enterprises who naturally bring in the social value bits, you know, to their service offering. And then of course the companies themselves can then enhance their value with their community engagement activities with charities and social enterprises. And I would like to kind of just say kind of what we are trying to emphasize in What Impact, that when you collaborate with social enterprise, you know, always it would be good to think about whether you can also kind of give donations to the social enterprise. Lucy, you probably, you know, signed this kind of a claim that also social enterprises are short of resources many times, and this kind of skills-based volunteering, strategic help, certain things could contribute to certain social enterprises, and then, you know, addition to the that you could buy from them. That social enterprises are, some of them partly also funded by grants and voluntary income. So if then companies could contribute not only purchasing, but also maybe helping out scale or something, it then would, you know, generate even more social value to the you know, society.
Yeah, I think the other lever, just to follow up on what Tia is saying, is the sustainable development goals as well. Internationally, a lot of big companies are now looking to the sustainable development goals, and obviously working with social enterprise can help you achieve those sustainable development goals.
Yeah, and touching on you know, the structure that CSRA have established, that has an impact in terms of different social enterprise groups, and also in the what impact reports as well, is we look at environment, workplace, community and philanthropy, and we don't see those things as separate pillars. There's a huge overlap. So in terms of that question around, you know, the value that a social enterprise gets, you know, in terms of financial value and a social value as a way of engaging, we have a really great social enterprise where I work, in the town I work, called Toolshed, that actually trains disadvantaged teenagers or young adults in skills training as electricians and carpenters and so on and so forth. And what's great is that Toolshed have created a kind of eco environment in which they now work with the local theatre and set building and training, and that then gets into lighting and engineering and sound engineering, where they work with the local housing associations as well. And now they've started to work with local small businesses who are bringing these young individuals into their works to deliver, you know, electrical work or trade skills work. And what they're building is a community that are all benefiting from it. And there you're getting the overlap. So when an organisation like, I don't know, a firm of solicitors is doing a refits and they bring Toolshed in, who then bring in their apprentices in, what that company is doing is they're not only investing in the future benefit of those individuals that are training, but they're also investing in the local economy as well. So, and they're also investing in supporting a local social enterprise. So, they're actually kind of scoring points in each of those pillars. And the pillars create that lovely framework that help you identify, how you can kind of engage at those different levels. And importantly, to show the impact. So coming back to having a platform, it's so important. And I kind of almost went off thread there because I wanted to come back to that impact reporting. We do talk a lot to organisations, social enterprise groups and charities and community projects, that if an organisation is doing some work for you through volunteering or giving or whatever it might be, that it is really the responsibility of that organisation to deliver a social impact report back that says, thanks to that volunteering or thanks to that gift in kind, we were able to achieve these things. Now, we're not looking at people expressing figures or numbers or showing off. We just want to say that, as a result of that 50 hours of volunteering, we were able to achieve X, Y, and Z, and that has had a benefit and an impact. And if you can use a platform to kind of really enforce that evidence, then you're getting another third-party endorsement of that work that's being delivered.
Tia, do you want to talk a little bit about the social impact report? That seems like quite a nice segue.
Comp Richard on that, even on individual level, of course it matters what the impact is, even if it's corporate resource, but it's kind of, it's volunteering hours or something, it's still the volunteer who is doing the work. They on a private level, of course, want to do something that has an impact and not just painting the fence that has been painted a couple of months before. And it didn't matter if you paint it or not. This is just for example, but still. Then in terms of the impact of like the whole company, in terms of their commercial success, that has to be proven. You cannot just claim that, oh, we've been helping charities and we've been working with social enterprises, and having no clue what the impact actually was. Not every charity or social enterprise is impactful. That has to be proven as well, that it's not automatically creating some kind of social value. Some organizations might have a negative impact. So that's why it's very crucial that there is evidence of some impact. So then the organization, which has anyway commercial motivation behind that, building reputation, employee engagement and stuff, and being better partner to governments and other companies who are seeking for social value partners, there is a commercial benefit. They have to understand what the impact is, and then of course every single employee, they are motivated by only the impact, not just that they did something random that then they didn't understand what the impact was. And therefore, like in WhatImpact, we have integrated the whole impact reporting system there. So it's a counter gift from social enterprise and charity to the companies and grant makers to present that this is what we achieved within a certain period, and there are evidences and stuff. We also have to understand that there are different size and type of organizations on the social value market, and not everybody has like very rigid measurement systems in place. It depends what kind of work you do, what the scale is and what is the impact you're trying to achieve, how you actually measure your success. So therefore, always when then the funders are asking for a report, that has to be also taken into account, that you cannot ask like too much, and sometimes you might be asking too little. So our impact report has been designed so that it suits any kind of purpose, and it's then, it can be modified to, smaller charity who don't have many people to do constant measuring or something, but they can still deliver certain evidence, or then, it's suitable for much bigger projects where lots of data is collected and impact proven. But it's a quite tricky world, this impact reporting, and also I guess our standpoint has been up till now that we wouldn't measure that in money because the social return of investment kind of calculations are never 100% accurate. It's and they can be manipulated a little bit. So we are now focusing on more this kind of qualitative, proven outcome related, like a storytelling version of impact reporting rather than putting everything in numbers. But I hope there will be a mechanism in the future that we can also approve and integrate to our system, where we could also then reliably count social return of investments as well.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, we state very firmly that the future shape of business will be measured in social value as much as it is going to be measured in its financial value. And I think you're right to say, you know, that social impact reporting is very difficult. There's a lovely little example of an organisation that we work with who, you know, who got some volunteers to come and help deliver some activities within that charity. And it was interesting because it was looking at where that impact was. And when these volunteers came in from the company, they were made to do this, you know, by their senior management. So they turned up very unhappy. And the first thing this charity did was gave them a satisfaction survey saying, are you happy about being here? And they were going, well, no, we'd rather be at work. You know, we don't even know why we're here. You know, and that's because the organisation hadn't really engaged their staff in the first place. Now, the charity. The charity in this case, it was a charity, not a social enterprise, but what they did was they packed bags full of goodies for children who had been taken into care from domestic violence. And those goodies had been paid for by different companies, and there were things like teddies and towels and toiletries and things like that. So it was a lovely emotive thing. Now, at the end of the day, when this volunteer team then had packed the bags, the charity had engaged that volunteer team with the conversations about what the charity was doing, about the impact and the benefit to the children at the other end. And then they cleverly did the satisfaction survey again at the end of the day. And everybody said it was one of the best days they'd had that week or that year or whatever. They were so engaged in what they had done. And that gave a powerful story back to the business that they weren't expecting. So it's a brilliant way in which that organisation kind of educated the business beyond the business's desire to do something good, but in a way that really added value and impact to the experience of the staff in this case.
I mean, that example, you know, changing the way how the employees felt, I mean, that's priceless. But I hope the organisation and many organisations have learnt the importance of actually communicating why they are asking employees or to do the activities. I mean, that's the flaw in the first place.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we talk about inclusivity. So when we talk about social responsibility, and we're helping an organisation and create the enablers within their organisation. So who is going to drive that? And that's got to be inclusive. It's got to be throughout the organisation, and you have to align it with what the staff would like to see as well within their own organisation. So often it can just be a dictatorial thing, and it needs to be so much more involved than that.
Yeah. So let's move on to another question. Is there a difference with companies working with charities and social enterprises?
Can you repeat?
You take this.
So is there a difference when a company is working with a charity or with a social enterprise?
So is there a difference between a charity and a social enterprise? I wasn't quite clear. Yeah. I think that a social enterprise essentially is a business first and foremost. Obviously, they do volunteering and other sorts of activities. So what I would say about working with a social enterprise is that it's about working with that organisation, and rather than, because a traditional kind of, and I know that Richard doesn't believe this, but a traditional sort of CSR relationship is kind of like, we'll come and we'll do some good for you. You know, it's actually about what will benefit both sides of the organisation, of the organisations, and is it a partnership? You know, why are you doing this thing, and what is it going to bring? And so for a social enterprise, it's about having an equal, and I would say it probably is for a charity as well, having an equal relationship and an equal respect for each other. Some charities are social enterprises, so charities that primarily are gaining income from their trading, and that's their main, the main source of income. But then you'll get those that are more donations led. But we would say that as the fundamental difference between a sort of more charitable type of organisation in the spectrum and a social enterprise in the spectrum is that kind of business, trading, generating income rather than donations led. So that is the fundamental difference. I think it's more about a partnership rather than, that kind of benefactor traditional we'll come along and do this to you. It's like we will work together, and I'm sure Richard would say that good CSR is just the same.
Yeah.
I would like to comment something about what we've been really trying to bring out as a topic is the shared value kind of thinking. Not, of course there are ways to interpret that, but shared value that both parties, whether it's just like this kind of a voluntary donation kind of a partnerships, or whether it's a commercial transaction partnership, between a company and social enterprise, or company and charity, still both parties should be benefiting from it. There are always motivations behind it, and if both parties benefit, then it's very likely that the partnerships can continue. It can be expanded, and you can have even a greater impact together. And I think, social enterprises, obviously, if you buy services from them, you deliver the value, but you also get the service what you're needing. But also social enterprises like charities have access to totally different kind of clientele and data that the company inherently just out of the blue would. So there are a lot of organizations who have beneficiaries or work within like a beneficiary field of hundreds of thousands, over 1 million people, millions of people who are kind of maybe visiting their website, participating in their trainings or whatever, taking part in their services. And companies can really learn from these groups and learn about maybe even about new problems that they haven't kind of realized, and they can even start building products and services in the future with the help of the data that they can get from charities and social enterprise, or learn by working from them. And there are lots of examples of these, and I just had actually podcast conversation with Howard Jones, who told really a lovely story about, I think it was Deloitte, who have been supporting this kind of a youth charity who helped like underprivileged children, and they did it was a quite big charity, so they have a really big reach amongst young people, and they had been developing then global products, that were benefiting the young people, but with the help of the UK information and the reach. And then this kind of very beneficial product that had also social value intact into the product could be distributed to other countries and help young people in other countries, but it was still a commercial product. I think these kind of partnerships can be formulated if there is a real collaboration, discussion, and people who are participating in these partnerships, whether it's a supply kind of partnerships, or whether it's this kind of maybe volunteering or something, if they are harnessed with that kind of also like a mandate from the company that, hey, learn something. What about if we find out something that there are challenges that our company could help solving with our knowledge or something, and create new products or services even. And that would then be actually a really mutually beneficial partnership. So we talk about a lot about shared values and try to also innovate these kind of ideas with our clients.
Okay, thank you. Just a reminder to our guests, if you have any additional questions or comments, please feel free to post them in the chat or the Q&A. So we've got a question. Can an enterprise within the arts be supported? What are the causes companies want to support? And how could the not so likely causes, the causes that are not so likely to get support be supported?
I can answer the second two. I think I'll leave the arts one to Lucy to talk about. But you know, we first of all, we would like to, you know, when an organisation is looking at supporting a charity, for example, it's probably nice to try and find something that aligns with what the business is doing, and what or has a relationship to the business, or has meaning to members of that business's staff, no matter how large our organisation is. So I gave an example a while ago about how the post office put a survey out to their staff about what they what they cared about, and they cared most about mental health and wellbeing, and they identified Mind UK, and actually that was that value, that two-way value relationship, because after 2 years of the post office working with Mind UK, the Mind UK had helped so much with reducing or improving the quality of mental health and wellbeing in the post office, that the post office ended up saving £2 million and reduced absenteeism as a result. But of course, the post office had to help support Mind UK. Now that's a large thing. The other thing that we think is very important is that an organisation, especially the smaller organisations, you know, they may be wanting to support a charity that's within their community. So there may be a smaller, you know, and it's great with Children in Need and, you know, Cancer UK and all these, you know, which have the marketing departments and the visibility. But actually there are plenty of tiny little charities just on your doorstep. And what the community foundation trusts do, for example, is they kind of help identify those charities, and they can help local businesses, you know, work with those smaller charities. So I think, you know, it's very important that an organisation does, you know, to contribute to the community that it's operating in, does identify with those smaller organisations and charities that exist within a footprint, you know, a 5 mile or 10 mile footprint of where their offices are.
Yeah, I think that the arts in particular are going through a very difficult period at the moment. And traditionally, they have been quite reliant on, you know, funding like Arts Council, etc. And that's the very reason why a lot of them have gone down a social enterprise track. You know, if you look at a lot of the big arts company and small arts company, they've diversified and tried to generate income in different ways, and that has been quite a challenge with the current situation, because obviously things like shops and cafes and stuff like that have all had to close. But what we've seen from social enterprises has been the amazing sort of pivot that these types of businesses have made in order to be able to keep that side of what they do going, really. And so, for instance, quite a famous social enterprise, the Watershed in Bristol, has you know, got its cinema complex and does a lot of training and work in the creative industries, and they are now have been working with other local organisations to develop training for young people, so that they will have you know, the skills that are needed after we come out of this situation. So I think what the social enterprise has been quite good at doing over this time of COVID has been really being quite sort of creative in the way in which it's looked at how what solutions might be needed and the ways in which it can be delivered. Social enterprise also provides a bit of a solution for those less an inverse sexy type of you know, charities, where they do attract a lot of donations, and that's where CSR can help as well, because, you know, things like Children in Need, as Rich said, you know, people do give to those sorts of organisations, and they can see the case studies, but there's a hell of a lot more that goes on to keep society going and ensure that we, you know, work with organisations that are tackling different things, maybe, you know, prisoner education, for example, whereby, you know, you really do need a kind of a social enterprising approach in order to be able to do that. And, you know, the more enlightened companies that are looking to make a difference through their CSR. So it's about you know, what impact actually going further than the traditional kind of we give money to this organization. It's about creating the widest sense of impact in order to create a better society.
And I think just to tag on to the end of that, you know, from the point of the creative industries, you know, in the UK, employs 1 in 11 people. It's our biggest export. Not many people know that, but you know, in terms of fashion, design, architecture, television, film, theatre, art, you know, it's one of the things we do great as a country. So you know, when you've got social enterprise groups that kind of work within the creative industries to kind of build up, it's basically investing in the long-term sustainability of our economy. But it's also, you know, creativity is a phenomenal way in which people can express themselves and in which you get amazing innovation as well. And you know, you only have to look at places like the Roundhouse in London, who have a phenomenal reputation for training disadvantaged children in terms of music and art, but actually then still using that platform and that stage to promote that out to a much bigger and larger audience. So, you know, I think some people kind of frown at art and how valuable is art, but actually, you know, it's one of those invisible backbones that props up the country that we live in.
And I would like to remind again, you know, any charity social enterprise who is working maybe in a niche area or in the area that might not be, you know, that kind of a cause that would be directly, you know, on the top list of the corporations. It's so important to measure the impact and see direct impact and also indirect impact. And if you were to now ask companies and you would say that, okay, would you support hedgehogs, or do you take this art charity or herpes association or something, it might be the first answer is like, no, we want to help underprivileged children or other fluffy animals. And but if they knew, the companies or corporates knew what the impact would be, suddenly we are talking about the climate change, hedgehogs and butterflies and songbirds, and or that the herpes, you know, 70% of the people on the planet has it, and it has tremendous, you know, kind of impact, negative impact on people's life. But you know, also it appears that 70% of the company's employees have it, you know, so they might be actually appreciating a company to supporting this kind of a cause. So if you really dig in deeper and know your real impact, you can demonstrate very compelling stories and also enlighten, you know, the companies, the funders, about these causes, and what really is the impact and what are they actually then funding if they start to support you, or if they start to buy from you. And then, you know, I think it's a totally different ball game. So it's about communication, I would say, that not exactly the certain cause or something. Rarely art is just like for the sake of art. You know, it has a huge mental health impact on people. And like you were mentioning, Richard, you know, there are lots of art charities who are, you know, actually using art to educate people or help people out, or, you know, create, boost confidence and so on. Their main focus is not just doing art. They are actually, the kind of their mission is totally different. They are just doing in the method of art, and that's again the communication. So I think there's a hope for every single cause, every single social enterprise and charity, if you know how to put the story right. And we at WhatImpact have generated our profiles so that it is very clear what the social enterprise or charity aims to do. What are the impact goals? Why have they been set up? How are they measuring their success and so on? So all the funders, potential funders, can kind of understand better why they should be considering these organizations.
Yeah, we've tried to create the platform so it's democratic. So the way how the information is presented is equal, but also in the platform, we've got the matching algorithm that will do matching based on shared values, missions and goals. So sometimes your values might be the same, but what you thought might be the social enterprise or charity that you support might be completely different. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see matches that may not have happened, but based on shared values. I'm really mindful we got a question and Tia has answered it. Ruby, can you just say yes or no if that's fully answered your question? Because I'm very mindful that we've got 5 minutes to go. Yes, it has. Brilliant. So in the last 5 minutes, one quick one. 2020, how do we see, sorry, 2021, how do we see CSR in 2021? Has the pandemic changed this better or for worse? And if you just do a quick one-liner, all of you, and then it'll be a wonderful way to wrap up.
Yeah, well, CSR has been, was on its way before the COVID. COVID has created it's brought it to the top of the conversational point. I think we can all agree that as individuals in the last 12 months, we've seen amazing acts of kindness, amazing ways in which people have supported and each other. And I think people have gone back to work, or as they come out of furlough, they're saying, how can we be better as a business? And those questions are coming through: sustainability questions, diversity questions, environmental questions. I think there's a huge appetite. And actually, I think where there's been a change is that this is now not a nice to have, it's a must have, because I think, the future shape of business will be measured against this. And I think organizations that do not deliver on their social responsibility will struggle to recruit, to win tenders, to develop their brand reputation, to retain staff, and so on and so forth. So I think there's loads of positive drivers, both social drivers and both financial drivers, that is going to create a new era for social responsibility.
Cool, thank you. Lucy?
Yeah, I agree with Richard. I think what we've seen over the last nearly a year now that we've been in lockdown on and off, there's been an acceleration of interest in social enterprise and in businesses doing better and in other ways. So we've had no end of conversations with corporates and other businesses that really want to take this seriously. What we're not seeing as yet is the government catching up. I think that is quite a source of frustration. And I would also name the Social Value Act as a bit of a source of frustration, because it's still seen so low down and in terms of its profile compared with the rest of work that that others are doing. It needs work going into the future.
Great, thank you.
From my perspective, I think companies have had, relied on quite a lot of employee engagement activities, people fundraising and volunteering, this kind of normal non-skilled volunteering. Obviously, these activities have now ceased entirely, or there's been much less, of course, these kind of corporate fundraising activities. So it's been very HR driven, and kind of fun days for employees and doing that. It's very important, and millions have been raised and lots of volunteering hours used within the charities and also social enterprises. But I think this last year kind of has now shown that there has to be more strategic approach, and on a higher level even organization. This is not just a HR activity to have people doing something fun and find a purpose for their life. It has to be inherent, and the company has to do kind of provide social value in every aspect of their operation. So it's not just that the employees can do it and we just communicate that, yeah, we've been helping out and that's it. It has to be in a higher level strategy and in every single segment of the organization. And I think many organizations who now work with us have come to realization that yes, these low skills volunteering hours are not necessarily used smartly. It might make a fun day for a team to pick some trash in a park, but they might be lawyers whose daily rates are like £3,000 and they are picking trash. So why don't we try to encourage our lawyers to use their lawyer skills to give these £3,000 working days to these organizations and contribute with their skills to the impact to our society. So these kind of realizations have come about, but also then I think providing services and products and kind of high value things for charities and social enterprises, that has now has more interest kind of than ever, because the companies anyway doing the products or services, so why couldn't they then maybe donate them or give them in very much lower price to these organizations? And I myself, I hope that the companies will increase the number of grants, like money donations from the company point of view, and just that they wouldn't totally rely on just their employees to fundraise, because that is just the fluctuating like money, you know, it just depends whether the people are active or not. And that doesn't allow the company build very sustainable partnerships if they never know how much money there will be distributed. And also, of course, if the employees are gathering the money, they decide who they are going to give it to. So it's many times shared in different kind of causes and charities, which again don't then support the corporate strategy in general. So I think there are a lot of changes happening, you know, and should be happening. And like Richard said, you know, this is not now optional, this is mandatory. So, you know, we are at least very happy to help any organization, any size and type, to come and speak with us to formulate a strategy and approach how to move onwards, because there is no return back to the old things.
Thank you very much. That seems like quite a good point to end on. So I'd like to thank all of our guests who have been here for the past hour. Thank you for your time and listening in. Thank you to everyone that submitted a question beforehand. Thank you to our guest speakers and the organisers of this webinar. So thank you very much, and I'll say goodbye to you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Take care. Cheerio.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.